right, welcome InGame Live, PrimeTime here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy President's Day to you. Still trying to figure out the correlation between President's Day and 28 early afternoon hockey games. I'm not quite sure I have figured it out, but maybe Dave Sharapan will be able to shed some light on that as we wait a couple more days before any NBA action, because quite honestly, I need a couple of days off after that just level of excitement in that game yesterday. In that All-Star game was just, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much more great competitive basketball I can handle. And so it's good thing we got 72 hours to get over it and maybe calm down a little, Dave, because that was just that was a lot to take in last night in Indy, and we don't have to really worry about it until Thursday. And maybe I'm thinking and hoping that maybe sometime between now and Thursday, the NBA figures out how to play some defense because bad habits, man, bad habits is what I'm thinking were created in that game yesterday, man. Welcome in and a happy Monday and President's Day to you, man.
Yeah, you as well. That All-Star game was riveting bad.
Yes.
I don't even know what to do about it. It was on last night with Kaufman and Drew, and they had West and under, and it was East and over, and it just got better. It never got better. So that was one of those situations where, like, you're on the air and they're trying to talk through the bet going, oh, maybe they'll come back. Maybe they'll this. But no, that was dead in the water. Now, the game might be dead in the water, Joe. I don't know. I came across it today that I posted on my Twitter, and it was actually guys playing defense, Joe. There were guys in the paint blocking other guys out. There was a steal that Kobe did on Jordan. He was up in his face playing defense. We need some sort of semblance of defense. Best on best, I love to see it. I loved All-Star games in years past. I don't know what to do with this anymore, Joe. We'll have JY on. I can't wait to hear his rant on it. Hopefully he'll have something for us. I don't know. We're on to college basketball for at least a couple days, and we're on to a full slate of hockey today where normally there's defense being played in the NHL. But, Joe, the Canucks lost by a field goal today, 10-7. I don't know what's going on in the NHL today.
We were trying to come up with the correlation between why the President's Day and early hockey. And I'm not quite sure what it is. They do that. I don't recall this every President's Day. Do we get a dozen games early? What's the deal?
The calendar, because the NFL went to an 18-game schedule, everything is pushed back a week. So this would be normally a full day of basketball during the day, and the All-Star break would have been last week. But they pushed it back. Remember, because they either do Martin Luther King Day,
right? It was one or the other.
Basketball. That was always one of those things. So now basketball's off. The NHL took advantage and did hockey all day to kind of go with the hockey all weekend. I mean, we saw some great games. The Stadium Series games were awesome. Those were fantastic hockey games. Big events at MetLife.
A lot of defense there. Yes.
Well, the Islanders had that game, and then the Rangers. They came back, won it in overtime. That was a goal, no matter what. That puck was over the net, even though the Islander defenseman slid into the post, tried to knock the net off. Listen, this is fun. I'm good with more day stuff during the week is fine. For gamblers, right? People find time to get their bets in and find time to watch them. So the problem is it leaves us at night with Virginia hosting Virginia. The game closed 3.5, 4. Virginia Tech's one of the hardest places to play in the ACC, let alone in the country. The current score is 43-16, 2 minutes into the second half, Joe. I got the Cavs stuff on because that's the only thing I could find to wear today. to one, kind of represent that the books all need the Cavs, one. But two, with JY's help and, producer Jack and everybody else with the graphics, I think tonight we have to find out who the second best team in the Eastern Conference is. Can we do that between futures, prices? Because it's the Celtics, and then who? Who is it after that? And you're a Miami guy. Don't tell me it's the Heat. It's not the Heat. Please.
It's whoever is going to play defense. That's who ultimately is going to win this. And I really don't think it matters because it's Celtics or bust, quite honestly. There's really not even who else is it? Milwaukee's going to play enough defense in a 7-game series. They're not going to be able to outscore everyone by 140 points every game because they're going to have to run into some teams in a 7-game series that are going to play defense, and you're not going to score 140 points. And then what happens? Right. So it's great when there's only one team that can do it. And where the hell was Porzingis, by the way, in the All-Star festivity? Did I miss him last night? Was he not? Was he not an All-Star? Yeah, no. That's right. He's not an All-Star. Right. Yeah, no. Okay. That's got to be the most talented non-All-Star that had nothing to do, that will actually help that team saw through the East on their way to their first championship since how long has it been now? It's, it's got to be what? Early 2000s. So we got to go back to the early Doc Rivers. What?
Yeah,
2008. Wow, yeah. 2008. Yeah. And how many have they been to? I think Tatum and Brown, right? Tatum, haven't they been to over the last 4 or 5 years? Haven't they been to just about every conference championship, though? Every conference championship, though, right?
They went to one finals. They lost to the Golden State.
One final.
Right.
But they are there every year. So why does that change? Why would that change this year? Unless something happens health-wise. Second
best team. Is it the Cavs?
No. You can't. They don't have enough offense. And the problem is so Donovan Mitchell is going to average 60 a game in the playoffs because that's about what it's going to take in order to do that. Who is the number 2? Let me ask you there. Well, that's an interesting hat that you have there. Yeah, that's an interesting hat there. But the Knicks.
Is it?
The Knicks. The Knicks are eventually not short of talent. They certainly seem to have the right mix, but ultimately, they always figure out a way to shoot themselves in the foot. And I just don't know that they're there yet. Just don't know that they're there yet. I think it's Boston or bust. It's the West, I think, is a little more interesting.
The best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games. It's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA. Is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8, right? This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8. 6 you lose, 7 you push, 8 you win. So it's going to come down to the end.
And he missed the 3, and they are not going to foul. They're not going to foul. He just drove and scored, though. Oh, they gave up a dunk with 14.1 to go.
InGame Live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilks and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilks' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points. Defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points. And then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, well, welcome back in here. It is InGame Live. We are primetime here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Dave Sharapan. We did finally get it in. The Daytona 500 has just finished here after a huge late crash there in the final couple of laps. And that usually always seems to be the case with these Daytonas, that just when you think your guy's leading for 125 laps, it really doesn't, one turn, one crash, and all hell broke loose there. So Byram, I believe, is your winner when it all came down to it. And William Byram, number 24, Bowman second, Christopher Bell. Those are your top three. And those guys were pretty much middle of the pack for most of the race here today, right up until you get inside those 10 laps left and guys start making those final moves. And then that's when all hell usually breaks loose.
Joe, what do you equate betting NASCAR to, let alone Daytona? I mean, it's like when you bet a horse race, you don't want your horse out front. You want him to come from behind a lot of times. There's never a pile up, where there's an inquiry. I don't know what you equate this to. It's
like the Kentucky Derby, where you get 28 entries, you get 28 horses. They got to roll out a whole nother gate because they don't have enough stalls in the first gate. They got to so if you don't get out of the gate, then your horse is basically stuck behind 25 other horses. You're never going to get around them, and that's kind of what happens here, is that it makes it very difficult. And you almost got to hope, Dave, that if you're stuck in the middle, you got to hope something crazy goes on. And this way you have an opportunity to be able to make a move. And that's kind of what just happened here. But what a strange day, though. Rain canceled this yesterday. So not only did we have a whole lot of NHL day games, we had Daytona 500 today, which I don't even know if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's watching it, does it actually make a sound? I'm not even sure. I'm just saying, I don't even know how many people realize Daytona was on here today here, and it just finished within about 25 minutes ago.
Did you hear the big betting controversy? So one prominent book back east that we're all familiar with voided all of the bets on Daytona that they took leading up to the race, because it moved. Okay. It moved 24 hours.
Sunday to today?
Rule. So all the bets that were taken, because it was 27 hours. The race was supposed to go at 1 o'clock Pacific yesterday, or 10 o'clock Pacific, and it went at 1 o'clock Pacific. So it expanded. It was 27 hours difference instead of 24.
Yep.
So they voided all of the bets. So you had a driver at 25-1 that closed 10-1. You had all these bets in, and they decided to void it. I couldn't believe it. It was one of those things that I thought, why would you do this? One, because it's not that big of a deal. Handle-wise, for NASCAR fans, this is it. This is the Super Bowl. Daytona's everything. Okay, I get it. It's the first race of the year. People are excited to bet. Okay. It's the most random thing that they do because it becomes a bumper car part track at the beginning when everybody goes, and then at the end when everybody's trying to finish. So, I mean, congratulations to the winner. Nobody really had probably any one of these top three finish. If they would have just left the bets, the book probably cleaned up today. Anyone that left the bets. Not many people had that one. But books trying to outsmart everybody and outsmart themselves, worrying about, they got a number on Martin Truex Jr., and he qualified in the front. We should have had him 12-1. So they took all the bets and voided them and said, rebet it with the adjusted prices. Couldn't believe it. I heard that. I was like, man, I don't know where this business is going. It's a little frustrating, but
all those guys, all the chalk were involved in those late crashes, and they all got bumped out, and that was the end of it. And I thought the quote of the year was from Joey Logano, who says, this race is a lot of fun until it sucks. And that has got to be the best quote ever about NASCAR racing right there. This place is great. It's a whole lot of fun until it sucks. And it sucked for him real late in the game today, that's for sure.
And that's a driver, right? Like, so this is part of the problem.
One of the best.
And we'll bring it back to bring it back to the NBA All-Star game, right? Like, he's one of the best drivers. This is when the players or the drivers are kind of bad rapping their own product, something's got to change, right? Like the NBA guys talking about, I mean, I talked about it today with Matt on BVB. There's word out there that they wanted paid. They want the winners of the All-Star game paid. And the league is like, we're not paying you. You're in the All-Star game. It's come here and compete. Well, they must have, kind of had a meeting and said, all right, we'll compete. We won't even step in the paint. Like the kids say the floor is lava. That's a little kid's game when you're going playing at the park or you're hanging out with them. They say, all right, 3, 2, 1, the floor's lava, and everybody's got to move or jump. The paint was lava last night for the NBA All-Star game. Nobody wanted to go in it unless it was a clear lane to the hoop. I don't know, Joe. I was bummed out. So we see it. I guess we have a soundbite here talking about this. Is this what we got?
Oh, I know Pharrell. I am pretty sure Pharrell was not pleased with this. Let's take a listen.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's not it. Oh, you're not.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is the perfect team for him, right? Because now, and this shouldn't be the case because you had Daryl Morey a couple of years ago. Now, I don't agree with Morey's assessment, but he said he was the greatest offensive player of all time, right? And if you're the greatest offensive player of all time, you should be able to be the number one on a playoff team that goes deep into the postseason. Not only can Harden not be the number one, he can't be the number two. He's proven that because he played with the MVP last year and they fell flat on their face. But he can be the number three. And this is the first time where he goes into a postseason and he's their third scoring option. So if he disappears again, guess what? You still have Kawhi. You still have Paul George. That's why I think this team, like you just said, is set up to make a deep run. It's because they're protected against Harden struggling and not showing up in the postseason because they got two players that are better than him. He's never played with two players that are better than him.
Yeah, well, it's the Clippers are. To me, I think this is ultimately where we're heading anyway, Clippers and Boston. And then it's going to be a battle of pretty much trained killers right there because I don't care about Harden. I don't care. Nobody cares. Don't care about Paul George. It's going to be all about Kawhi Leonard. There is no single more feared dude in the world outside of, go back to the LeBron, the Michael days here. There is no crazier sniper than this guy. When he is locked in, he will carry a team right to a championship. He carried the entire city of Toronto to a championship. He did it in San Antonio, and I have a feeling he's going to have a chance to do it here in LA with his hometown Clippers here. And it's got nothing to do with Harden. It's got nothing to do with Paul George, Russell. Those are all nice pieces. It's all great. But there has to be one guy that elevates all of them. And they have that guy. And I do think Tatum is that guy on the Celtics. And I think Kawhi is that guy on the Clippers. And I can't think of a better way to get the absolute horrific taste out of our mouth from what the hell that was yesterday than giving us a finals that involves Kawhi Leonard taking on Jason Tatum and company, both elite players with elite players around them that have to be at their best in order to win. I think that would be an epic 7-game war. But you got to get there first, though.
Nuggets? You didn't even.
Oh, no, Nuggets are done. And I'll tell you why they're done. We'll talk about it with Coach when we get back here on InGame Live. Done.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8, right? This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8. 6 you lose, 7 you push, 8 you win. So it's going to come down to the end.
And he missed the 3, and they are not going to foul. They're not going to foul. He just drove and scored, though. Oh, they gave up a dunk with 14.1 to go.
InGame Live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilkes and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilkes' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points, defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points, and then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live. We are primetime here on the Sports Grid Network. We've got one big-time college hoops game going on right now in the ACC. It's not really much of a game. Va-Tech is destroying Virginia right now, 54-28. But there are a couple of Big 12 games coming up, which we're all excited about here because as UConn has cemented themselves as the number one team, I think, far and away in the country, there is a team playing tonight in Houston that is trying to let people know and prove they are not that far behind. And they're going to have to take on Iowa State and exact a little revenge because they were beat in Ames last month here by Iowa State. So some good basketball coming up there. That's why we bring in our man, the coach, James Young. And, Coach, before we get to those games, Dave and I have been talking, and I want to give you a quote, okay, from yesterday's, and we were talking off air, and I had told Dave, I'm like, I am so glad after watching that game last night, I'm glad we have 3 days off before we have to see any more NBA play, because I don't know how much more I can handle. Adam Silver says, quote, people were uniformly critical of last year's All-Star game. Now, he said this on Saturday night, right, before the game was played. So he's talking about last year's. I can't even tell you how played last year. The game must have been so riveting. But he says people were uniformly critical of last year's All-Star game, and that includes players. And he believes that everyone will be aligned on trying to make the game this weekend more competitive. I think he fell short, Coach. I just call me crazy. I think competitive is a strong word. I'm not. He was just a little bit off the mark. Why are we playing this game, Coach? Why are we playing this game, Adam Silver? Seriously.
First thing first, shout out to Dave Sharapan in full pimp mode with no hat and the glasses on. Shout out to Sharapan.
This is all for you. This is all for you, J-Rod. I knew we finally got you on. I knew you'd be clean shaven. I put the listening glasses on because I couldn't wait to hear what you had to say about that abomination that was called an All-Star game. What was that?
I would have watched fourth grade CYO basketball and paid money rather than watch it. I watched maybe 10 minutes of All-Star Weekend. And 5 of it was Sabrina versus Steph, which was the only part of All-Star Weekend was actually any good. It's Sabrina versus Steph. And I was on with Kevin before. Kevin made a good point. If Steph had went first, I think Sabrina would have beat him because you had to know the number to get. And just Sabrina and that right wing got a little bit cold, missing 4 out of 5. But I will say this. It was a joke. It was a travesty. Nothing like saying people are uniformly upset and there's going to be defense and the team gets a 211 points. I mean, nothing says defense like 211. So here's where we're at. Nobody cares. No one likes it. The players even said they don't care. So now this is where JY is going to come in. And I said this from last year. So I don't want to care what anybody said. I talked about this last year. Ready? USA versus the world. Very simple. U.S. get the best players in the U.S. as voted as All-Stars versus the best international players. And Embiid does not count as an American, even though he's playing for the Olympics. It's got to be where you were born, not where you're. You know what I'm saying? So now, ready? Wembanyama, Joker, Embiid, Giannis,
Luka,
Jamal Murray, RJ Barrett, Luka Doncic. Like, I mean, let's be honest here, folks.
That sounds like a fun team. That sounds like a fun team.
SGA. Let me say this right now, folks. I don't know if the Americans beat them in a real game. So I want USA versus the world. And the winning team, their MVP, you donate like $2 million to the charity of their choice.
Cash.
I think you want, because the thing about it, guys, redeem team, right? Even now, we're losing the FIBA World Cup. I want to play. I want to play. Go Team USA. For the country, for the red, white, and blue, I shall represent my country. Well, how about an all-star game where you guys may not be the favorites? You think LeBron will play a little bit more defense? You think Anthony Edwards would care more about the game? If you bragging rights of America's game, well, I guess it's not America, that's baseball, but a game that we invented, that now some people think the international players play it better than us. USA versus the world, one all-star game. I guarantee there'll be more defense being played.
But the problem is there's no amount of money in the world that are going to, it appears that these guys have been raised in an era, coach, of basketball where they are deathly afraid of getting hurt in anything that doesn't require them or have anything to do with trying to win. That is the number one overriding excuse for guys. We want to do it, but we don't want to get hurt. Well, what is it then? You can't have it both ways.
Rolled his ankle, walking down the steps, holding a cell phone. Do we have?
That's what the excuse is. That's what the excuse is. So how do you get over that, Coach? How do you get past that then? Yeah, but you can't. Obviously, if that's the excuse they're all going to use, right? They kept making sight about the whole idea that the West was so much bigger than the East. If you listen to the broadcast, they kept saying, look at the size difference on the floor. What the hell is that? The little guys in the East were running circles around the big guys because none of them played any defense. So what is it then? What in the world is going to motivate these guys if they're hiding behind the injury idea in an exhibition game? Then no money. I mean, these guys are all 100 trillionaires. What is it?
I think money. To be the players.
I think money. It's got to be the
players that do it.
You got to have a ton of money because
held accountable to each other. Look back at I posted a clip of the All-Star game where there were more guys in the paint in one clip that I posted from an All-Star game. Kobe stole the ball from Michael Jordan. He picked him up at half court and was one-on-one guarding him, knocked the ball away and went down and dunked it. They're not even the players respected each other and themselves. Best on best. I'm trying to beat you in front of everybody, JY. How do we get them to care like that?
I'll give you one better. Not only did they respect each other, they respected the game. And I think the other thing you have is these guys are all buddy-buddy. But here's where it's different now, folks.
Bingo.
These guys change teams every 3-4 years. You remember back in the day? Like when you knew Bird was playing for the East. Magic was playing for the West. Dr. J was playing for the East. Olajuwon, David Robinson playing for the West. Very rarely did you see guys. Karl Malone played for the same team. John Stockton played for the same team. Reggie Miller played for the same team. The only one that you really can talk about that got traded and went from different East to West. Okay, you can look at Barkley, you can look at Shaq, you can look at a couple players. But for the most part, you played in the East and you played in the West. And it was bragging rights. And it was pride. And it was tradition. And it was, with like a situation of Jordan and Kobe, that was a passing of the torch. Like Jordan was clinging for dear life. And Kobe's like, I'm competitive with it. I respect the game. I'm trying to take your mantle. That is what we had then. We don't have it now. And until you change the mindset, this goes deeper than this, Dave. This goes into everything we talked about with the not playing back-to-backs. Like I saw something. John Stockton missed 19 games in 17 years. 17 years he missed 19 games. Ben Simmons gets a damn busted toenail, and he's done for 3 goddamn years. Like, this is where we're at now. And I'm sorry. This is why I don't watch the All-Star game, because I get fed up watching it. As I watch Virginia, shout out to Coach Young for the dumbass pick of the night, picking Virginia plus 3.5. They're only down by 32. Good job, Tony Bennett. Just run the ball,
Yeah.
Tony Bennett. Just keep running your offense. Let's milk the clock and we'll shoot it with 6 seconds left.
Are they going to
At
make the
least they're
tournament?
playing
They
defense.
might not
At
make
least
the
they're
tournament.
playing
They're not
defense.
an NCAA tournament team.
No.
Oh,
What? How? What?
no.
The ACC folks, ready? Okay. The Big 12, better. The SEC, better. The Big East, better. The Big 10, better.
Big 12 is best.
The Mountain West, better.
Whoa. Really?
Look at Ken Palm.
Wow.
Look at Ken
Oh.
Palm. I mean, think about this.
Wow.
Duke, underachieved. Carolina, too flaky. NC State, no. Miami, Joe, where's Nigel Peck? That guy should be paging Nigel Peck. Nigel Peck, please report to a basketball game because you guys suck at Miami. And I thought you were going to the Final Four. That's why I can't come on this show anymore because I just give myself a headache. I don't even know what to do anymore.
Yeah. All right, well, take a breath. We do have a couple of best bets we'll get to when we come back because there are a couple of Big 12 games getting ready to tip. Definitely not Virginia, Coach. We've heard.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at guys, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8, right? This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8. 6 you lose, 7 you push, 8 you win. So it's going to come down to the end.
And he missed the 3, and they are not going to foul. They're not going to foul. He just drove and scored, though. Oh, they gave up a dunk with 14.1 to go.
InGame Live, Prime Time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilkes and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilkes' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points, defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points, and then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live primetime here on this Monday, this President's Day here, right smack in the middle of February, as we get ready for a couple of Big 12 games tonight coming up top of the hour. We'll have some best bets for you here. Coach James Young hanging with us here. Joe Raineri alongside Dave Sharapan. To wrap up the NBA, I will say this here, Coach, because I think you nailed it. With this All-Star Game debacle. I think the accountability and the players having enough respect for the game and them all being friends. And I blame LeBron and the whole banana boat in the Bahamas when he did that whole thing here in Miami. And, Chris Paul's on there. Everyone's hanging out. Everyone's a good time. But I'll tell you what, instead of needing another Kobe or Michael or somebody like that, because I think we do have them in the league already. I think Kawhi Leonard would just assume eat your face off and let you beat him when a game matters, right? I think Tatum is the same thing. No. What I think we're missing in this league is Charles Oakley. Give me any of the bad boys from the Detroit Pistons. Give me the guys that are going to make you want to play because they're not going to let you go out there and drop 194 points in a half. Those are the guys the NBA needs in order to be able to turn this around. Whether those guys, Coach, exist in this league, I think we have some silent killers. I don't know that we have the Oakleys. I don't know that we have the Detroit. We don't have any villains. That's the problem.
No. The only villain is Draymond Green, and Draymond Green would get body slammed
there
if
you
he
go.
Played 40 years ago. Man, think about this. You breathe on a guy. I'm probably giving him COVID. You breathe on a guy, they call a foul. You armbar him, it's a foul. You touch him, it's a foul. You can't touch him. NBA, let me tell you something. Try going down the lane in the playoffs and got to deal with Mahorn, Sally, Rodman, Lane Beer.
Thank you.
Or go down the lane.
Those guys don't exist.
TJ Brown and Alonzo Mourning. Go down the lane and try and crank one on Charles Oakley, Xavier McDaniel, Anthony Mason, Patrick Ewing. Yeah, folks, I'm getting on your damn lawn, and I don't care. The NBA is soft. I don't like it. The All-Star Game proved it again. Maybe this is me at my old age. I mean, me and Sharapan, we don't get that nice head of lettuce like Raineri does. I'm actually sweating a little bit. But y'all get my point. I'm so goddamn done with the NBA and this All-Star Game debacle. Like I said, the only part of the All-Star Game that was good was a three-point shootout between Steph and Sabrina. And I'm adding right now, I propose next year, Reggie Miller may have beat it to me first, but I don't care, Reggie. I didn't hear you say it, so I'm taking credit for it anyway. I won Dame and Steph in a 2-on-2 three-point shootout versus Sabrina Ionescu and Caitlin Clark.
Ooh.
Done.
Ooh.
That's it.
Right.
And if you want to do something even better, get more players. Put Breanna Stewart in it, right? Put Kelsey Plum in it. Put some of the best women's basketball players in the WNBA and give them that exposure and bring it in that market. Because I guarantee you, more people got into that three-point shooting contest than any part of All-Star Weekend.
They can do so much more.
Did you even know Toppin was a G League player? Did anybody?
No.
Did anybody even realize that
idea.
two of the dunk contestants were G League players?
No. And the funny thing is, he got robbed because they knew McClung was going to the finals.
Robbed.
They had to put Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum could have shot a layup that Pat Foster would have shot, and he would have got a 50. By the way, Pat Foster's got some ups. I've seen it my damn self.
Hot Foster catches straight in all this. Leave Foster out of this. You can't get Foster out of this.
That's my guy.
I know.
I know.
He can make a layup.
Well,
but listen, they can
why
do so
not
much
him
more.
in the All-Star game?
Well,
you don't have to be an NBA player, right?
That's what it is now. It's a three-point shooting contest played disguised as a game. I think the skills competition could be done so much better. They have to do something.
Oh, what was that?
Used to be the highlight of February was NBA All-Star Weekend.
Yes.
And now it's not. But
I agree.
we got to pivot,
'Cause they
Jay.
hated one
Get
another.
out of here. You got to give us
They
a college
hated one
basketball
another.
game. Yeah. Give us a college basketball game for tonight, please. Come on.
Well, number one, I like Kansas State plus 8.5 at Texas. A Texas team that literally got their doors blown off by 30 to Houston. A Texas team that did not play well all year. Shout out to Chris Beard. Sorry, Rodney Terry, you're a great man, but we know last year why y'all won is because of the players and because of Chris Beard. But I also look at the fact that K-State played, and Coach Tang did such a great job. They were in an absolute war with TCU and lost at the buzzer on a crazy 3 with about 1 or 2 seconds left to go. I like them plus the points. To add on plus the points, I'm going to take Iowa State plus 8.5. This is an Iowa State team that has played as well as anybody in the Big 12. An Iowa State team that already has a win over Houston. And a Houston team that, yes, folks, really played well last game versus Texas. I think they're getting, and I love Houston, too much respect here. I think they win the game. Iowa State covers. And if you want to play a little fun with it, how about taking Iowa State and K-State and teasing them up together? Get them at like 13.5. I don't see either team losing in double digits. In fact, I see both teams losing by about 4 to 6 points.
You got a prop in there too as well, Coach? Who are you looking at in that game?
Because the game is going to be tight, I like LJ Cryer to go over 13.5 points. LJ Cryer has gone over, Joe, 5 in the last 8 games. When you look at LJ Cryer, now here's the crazy thing. LJ Cryer in his career, but starting at Baylor, now at Houston, has never scored more than 13 points versus Iowa State. 5-point performance in game 1. I'm kind of correlating this, Joe, with the fact that if I think that Iowa State's it's going to be close, that it means it comes down to free throws, extra possessions, extra shots. Cryer can be one of those guys along with Jamal Shead to get fouled. If I'm Iowa State, I cut the head off of the snake. So that's why I didn't go to Jamal Shead at 14.5. I went 1 below. Give me Cryer over 13.5 points tonight.
He's going to be key for them here tonight. So we did have, Coach, of course, the very first mock bracket draft out there. The 4 number ones that we were seeing here was UConn, Purdue, Houston, Arizona, and, of course, Purdue, after learning that, it promptly went out and got absolutely embarrassed. Matt Painter, once again, playing down to competition. But who are your 4 number ones right now, Coach, if you had to say it? I'm going to guess Houston and UConn probably for sure. But what would you do with the other 2 number ones?
No, I think they got it right. I said this, when I was talking to Joe Frieso, producer for Game Time Decisions in the early line, and him and James asked me last week on Thursday. Those were the 4 teams I had as the number 1 seed. Obviously, the best team in the country is UConn. I don't think it's very close. Purdue will get a number 1 seed because the Big Ten, let's be honest, is very bad. That was a terrible performance. But Purdue showed you why they cannot be trusted in the big spot. I think Houston gets there because I think they win the Big 12 regular season title. Arizona will get there because there is almost like process of elimination. Who is the next one to get it? Unless it's someone like Tennessee. I'm not a big believer in Tennessee. I don't even think they win the SEC tournament. Now, if you ask me about who's going to make the Final 4, I would say that I think Purdue can get there, UConn can get there, Houston can get there, and then I'm going to go down to the team that's 13-1 to be a number 1 seed, and that's the Kansas Jayhawks. A Kansas Jayhawks team, Joe, that still has Hunter Dickinson as a transfer. They still have Harris, they still have McCullers, still have Abrams, and they still have Bill Self. I think at the end of the day, Kansas will find a way to get to the Final 4. But an interesting bet that's now on FanDuel is UConn to win the net. And I think it's a women's game. Well, I'll tell you real quick for the women's. I saw this today. I was talking to Kevin. I just thought of this. South Carolina to win a national championship versus the field. Now, real quick, I know I jumped to the women's game. I want people to start looking at the field because South Carolina is starting to slip up a little bit. It's minus 145 for the field, but you're going to give me 63 teams for minus 145. Might as well take a chance on that with the women's tournament.
Anything is possible.
what you did
Injuries are certainly possible there. Are you impressed, Coach? Because you and I certainly have ripped them over the last couple of months here for some games that were just pathetic. But it seems that Kentucky figured out how to play some defense. That was a pretty impressive win. The last couple of games here. I mean, they are as talented as they come. If they really want to play defense, and Calipari has gotten to these kids here, it's hard to say that Kentucky's even a dark horse, but my goodness, if they're going to play defense and they're going to give that kind of effort, how do we not take a flyer with them at what is ultimately probably a bigger price than it should be based upon the talent?
Kentucky is 30-1 to win a national championship.
Ugh.
Now, what does Kentucky have more than anybody else? They got 4 guards that can go get their own shot, right? Between Reeves and Shepard and obviously Dillingham and Wagner.
Yep.
Now, Wagner's been banged up, and I've been hearing stuff from people I know. There's a lot of stuff going on in Kentucky behind the scenes. That's why you saw Cal like a little bit surly after his press conference. Things aren't all hunky-dory down in Lexington. But if there's a team that's talented enough to make a run, that team's 30-1. I'll give you another team at 30-1 to take a flyer on maybe to win the national championship. And that's Illinois. I am a big believer in Brad Underwood. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. No one talks about. They defend, and they got a stud, an absolute stud in Shannon Jr. I'll take a flyer on them.
Yep.
And Kevin disagreed with me earlier on game time decisions. I look at Creighton also at 45-1. Kalkbrenner, when he wants to, can be a problem. Alexander and Shireman. I think McDermott's a great coach. I would not be surprised. I would look at Creighton 45-1 as a flyer to maybe go make a run a minute.
Let's look at Creighton tomorrow night. They play UConn. UConn's a 3-point road favorite. All right. You like them in that game. The Big East is it is UConn and everybody else in the national picture. But who's the teams in the Big East? Because we thought it was Creighton before the season. Really thought it was Marquette with the way they were playing until this past weekend. You're a Big East guy by heart, and, you got the connections there at the Big East. Who are we looking at, let alone, does Creighton got a shot tomorrow night? 1A, 2, who's the second best team in the Big East?
I think the second best team in the Big East right now is actually Creighton. And I will say this, and you guys may think I'm crazy. Plus 20,000. Villanova. They lost to them by 1. If they get in, they got experience. They got a Big and Dixon. The problem is Kyle Neptune sometimes can mess up a ham sandwich.
On your way out of here, Coach, what about Virginia? Do you want? No, too soon.
All
right, Coach James Young, we appreciate
money. Getting you back over here. What's wrong with you?
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8, right? This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8. 6 you lose, 7 you push, 8 you win. So it's going to come down to the end.
And he missed the 3, and they are not going to foul. They're not going to foul. He just drove and scored, though. Oh, they gave up a dunk with 14.1 to go.
InGame Live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilks and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilks' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points. Defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points. And then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live. We are PrimeTime here on the SportsGrid Network as we look to wrap up this first hour. Much more to get to here, including a couple of big college hoops games getting ready to tip off here. Big 12 action between a couple of top 10 teams. Number 2, Houston, taking on number 6, Iowa State in Houston. That coming up here in just a couple of minutes. And Kansas State and Texas, 2 teams trying to salvage their seasons here. It has not been going well in the Big 12 for those two. So I don't want to say it's an elimination game, but really either of these 2 teams lose this game here tonight, going to be tough sledding to try and make a spot in the tournament coming up. So a lot on the line in those couple of games there. We'll get to that. Yep. And of course, we do have a couple of games in the NHL as well, and a huge card today, President's Day. A lot of early games. Not a lot of defense, though, Dave, from what I understand today throughout the scoring. We didn't get any at MetLife with these outdoor games over the weekend either. So is this a trend, you think, that maybe this is scoring is going to be up here as we move along in the NHL season, or is this just kind of an anomaly here because of this week?
I think a lot of times these early start midweek games mess up the schedule. Like you had a goalie that stayed in the game for Vancouver today. The Smiths stayed in because they play the Avalanche tomorrow. So they left him in.
Yes.
That was one of those ones where the pitcher, in baseball gives up 8 runs in the third, and the manager looks at him like, hey, how you doing? You ain't coming out.
Yeah.
Because
the
bullpen's got. So strange day in the NHL, but fun. I like goals because you need goals to win, but they don't win in playoffs. This is really interesting.
No.
Everybody's shaping up for this February run leading up to the deadline. We got more to talk about on the other side about it.
Yeah, we do. 3-1 Senators over the Lightning. Will continue next here on the Grid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live, primetime off and running an hour here as we get ready for opening tip in these two big college hoop games in the Big 12 here. Houston getting ready to cement their legacy in hopes of staying right on the heels of UConn as they take on the number 6 team in the country, Iowa State. This is going to be a heavyweight fight here tonight. Buckle up for this one as I'm seeing last second. I'm still seeing 8.5. So, Dave, it felt like this number was a little out of control. 9.5 this morning, but it's slowly been bet down to 8.5. Feels like a lot of points to be laying when you have two top 10 teams like this. I mean, you're not playing you're not playing Texas Southern. You're playing the number 6 team in the country that already beat you. So it felt like a lot of points. But amazingly enough, Dave, the thing that moved the most in this Iowa State-Houston game was the total. These are two teams known for defense and known for making your life a living hell. The first game didn't sniff, I think, 115 points. I think it was 57, 54, something along those. How in the hell are we getting? It's now up to 133.5. And if we are getting that many points, maybe there is a blowout that we're waiting to see here. I don't get why it's coming down then. If the total's going up, shouldn't the number be going towards Houston?
You would think so. But again, you saw the All-Star game total move 11 points from the opening number yesterday and fly over the closing number by 50. So these late steam moves, these moves, a lot of times they're wrong. And in a game between these two teams, we just saw 75-41 was the final of the Virginia Tech-Virginia game. Not saying it's the same type of game, but if Houston wins, they're probably going to win and cover, but the game could still go under. Iowa State is a really good basketball team, fundamentally sound and defensively right there. The game has got to be an under. I'm surprised by the move. The books will be happy to keep writing all the over bets they want. Move the number, keep betting it over. I think the only way this one gets over is, I don't want to say overtime, but it's going to be, have to be competitive down to the point where first team to 70 wins, but it's 70 to 65, something like that. Try to play out the final scores in your head. That's where I'm at with it. I think this is a good indicator of how good Iowa State is. I'm going to learn more about Iowa State in this game than Houston. I know everybody knows how good Houston is. JY was just on telling us about it. I think we got to find out how good is Iowa State. Are they actually a 2 seed on the line? I mean, maybe a 3 seed, but they're right there, 2 or 3 seed. No joke. A win here, and they're going to get into the discussion for legitimately a 1 seed, winning the Big 12, all this other stuff. It becomes very real. So I think they have everything to gain and really nothing to lose. I love taking a dog in that spot like that. And I'm not sold yet on Houston, not as much as JY. Do you like Houston to actually, people got them as the number 1 overall seed, Joe?
Yeah. Listen, they have been a number 1 seed going on, it feels like, with Sampson at 4 years in a row. And unfortunately, they end up injuries plagued them last year and they fell a little bit short. But this team has been absolutely loaded, and it's the style. And don't forget, this is their first year in the Big 12. So they were dominating the American Athletic, where the only team that ever gave them any fits was Memphis. And while they're not there anymore, now they're in the Big 12. And they had a little rough patch here, right? They lost a couple of games in a row there. They lost Iowa State on the road. This isn't the American Athletic anymore. It takes them a little while to get used to it. But ultimately, when you watch this team play, this is big boy basketball. And, they are having their way with a lot of these Big 12 teams. Revenge is on their mind. I think there are 4 teams in the Big 12 that we all ought to pay attention to. Iowa State's one of them. Houston's another one. Baylor is one. Kansas is one. I think the Big 12 has got some teams that are going to do some damage here down the stretch and are absolutely, I think, just finding their groove. But if Houston is, in fact, the number 2 team in the country, this should not be a problem to win this game and win it by margin here. But that's a big if, because this is the Big 12. This ain't the American Athletic Conference anymore. You're not playing the Cincinnatis of the world. This is welcome to Iowa State. Yeah, it's a little different.
A stray from Coach in the segment before. Now Cincinnati catches a stray from you. Houston's good.
We'll see how
good. This is interesting. 14-0 at home, right? They haven't lost a home game.
Yes,
they're 22-3 on the season. Legitimate top. Yep. 1, 2, or 3 team in the country. Pretty much from any basketball person you ask. They should hold home court and win and cover, just like you said. But I'm interested again, like I said, I want to see Iowa State. I think we'll have a lot of opportunity in game, Joe.
Well, let me ask you a question. What's the harder conference? Big 12, or because to me, I think they're better than Purdue. I mean, call me crazy. I think they win this game here tonight. They're a 1 seed with UConn. Right. I mean, I don't even think it's close. I think Purdue is coming back to life here and will be a 2 seed. I don't like teams that play down to competition. That's what Matt Painter does. That's what he's always done. But when you look at the level of competition, are we really fearing who do we care about in the Big Ten? I mean, I don't want to hear Izzo anymore because every time I turn around, that team is just burning money, Michigan State. Maybe they do turn it on next month. I wouldn't put it past them. It's not like they don't have 30-year-olds on that team. But I have not been impressed by anybody in the, Purdue is it, and then there's everybody else. It just feels like such an overrated conference, even more so this year. Just give me Purdue, and what else is there? Who do you not want to play on the opening round? I'd rather play the Big Ten. Maryland?
Right.
Come
Wisconsin?
on.
Wisconsin, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't even know who would even be argued with. Listen, minus 650 to be a 1 seed. Houston wins convincingly tonight. Wins the regular season, Big 12. I don't think they have to win the Big 12 tournament to be a number 1 seed.
I agree.
So
I agree.
They actually have a good shot.
Think it goes through them.
It's a lot of juice, but it might not be a bad bet.
I do think it will go through them. And Cryer, don't forget, former Baylor Bear. Baylor's got a really good team nobody's talking about as well. The tip is on. We'll get you caught up next year on the grid.
Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8, right? This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8. 6 you lose, 7 you push, 8 you win. So it's going to come down to the end.
And he missed the 3, and they are not going to foul. They're not going to foul. He just drove and scored, though. Oh, they gave up a dunk with 14.1 to go.
InGame Live, PrimeTime, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilkes and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilkes' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points. Defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points. And then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live primetime here on this Monday. Joe Raineri alongside Dave Sharapan, off and running here in college hoops. Houston, a couple of quick buckets, 5-0 over Iowa State. And the other Big 12 game, 6-4 right now, Texas over Kansas State. About 5 minutes in to that one in a very important game for both those teams. Who can ill afford any more losses at this point. NHL games remaining, Dave. I believe it was, what we say, 4-1. I believe Ottawa's on top, but I think Tampa just scored.
Tampa. Yep.
So it looks like what now? A 4-2 game? How much time left in that one?
4-2, just under the 13-minute mark. Listen, after what we saw today from Minnesota, against Vancouver, nothing is out of the realm of. We saw it in a Stadium Series game.
I'm with
Rangers were down 4-1, came back, beat the Islanders in overtime. Comebacks are the theme of the NHL, especially the better teams against the bad teams. They can't hold leads, so I absolutely think that the Lightning are live. The other game, though, Hurricanes are up 5-2 on the Blackhawks. Oof. 12 minutes left in the third period, way over, salami over. I mean, multiple games with 7 goals scored. I think you're going to see an adjustment, too, on totals, Joe. It's one of those situations where we talked about it last year, around this time. Yeah. You can't keep putting up 6.5 over minus 40. One, I think you're discouraging action in that situation because who wants to lay 40 on a total? Nobody. But if you don't know any better, okay. If you like to play over 6.5 rather than over 7, okay. But I'm always thinking from the book's perspective, what are you supposed to make the number? Let's make it 7. If it pushes, I'm fine. We'll return the money. But I think you'll get more under bets. Almost every game went over. I agree. Almost every game except the Knights and the Sharks. The Knights and the Sharks. Sharks are just
they didn't score, right?
Bad again. They're in that mode. They're done. The Blackhawks are done. The Coyotes done. Smoked by the Oilers today. Can't make that number high enough. The Oilers were -3 something on the road. Coyotes 10 in a row. Hockey is so much like baseball, which we'll get to here this hour. I'm excited to talk a little baseball with you. But the bad teams are playing out the string, Joe. You know what that means. The juice goes up. But you can't bet on these bad teams. You just can't do it.
Nope. If you thought that you were going to get the wool, hey, this is great value. Let me get San Jose here, maybe at a sleeper spot. No, this is exact. Don't expect bad teams to do good things this time of year. I was interested, though. I didn't see it because very rare was it a 4 or 5 game losing streak for the Bruins? And I know they're going on this crazy road trip now. Today, I believe, was the last of the hurrah for home games. Did they win against, was it Dallas they played today?
Yeah, they played Dallas in a game that I think went 9 deep in a shootout. So it was 1-1.
Oh,
So
wow.
they went 9 shooters deep. Yeah. The shootouts are a hard way to win or lose a bet. I can't stand them. If I'm on a team and they go to a shootout, I pretty much rip the ticket up before anybody starts shooting. I know I just don't win them. It's the worst. Every time I'm like, please, just end. I'd rather lose it overtime. At least it's quick, painless, easy, like ripping a Band-Aid off. Pulling that Band-Aid off slow, shot by shot, shooter by shooter, and losing a bet. Those are the worst ways to lose. But, yeah, Boston goes to Edmonton.
They're playing
next.
Edmonton then, right? Yeah, I was going to say, Edmonton had a easy one today. The Bruins now had to play, like you're saying, 9 deep into a shootout. Now they're traveling, going out west. Yeah. Advantage Edmonton?
Absolutely. Yeah, Edmonton will be a nice, decent favorite in that game. And they, Boston's got to do the Western Canada swing with the Seattle trip. So they go at Oilers, at Flames, at Canucks, at Kraken. So they got a week of Western Canada and Seattle in February. Not the greatest trip. Might be a little bit cold up there, but might just be what the doctor ordered. Right now, the Bruins cannot prevent the other team from scoring goals. They've been down in games repeatedly. Give up the first goal regularly. Give up multiple goals in the first period regularly. Having to come from behind. So a trip to Western Canada usually spells a 1-3, with the Seattle, trip thrown in there. There'll be dogs at the Oilers. There'll be dogs at the Canucks and slight favorites against Seattle and decent favorites against Calgary. So could be a 2-2 trip. They're playing for position. The East is shaping up.
That's it.
And Boston's not at the top. You are in the hockey, I guess the hockey hotbed of the Eastern Conference. Nobody's talking about the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers are the number 1 seed. They're the best team in hockey in the East right now. Joe, save me a spot for the Stanley Cup Finals, because if they make it, I'm coming. I'm coming down to watch. Look at these odds. Is it really them in Carolina again?
Again, correct. Well, I mean, it's them in Boston at the top of the Atlantic, right? And the Rangers will figure out a way to throw up all over themselves. I don't know anybody who thought Philadelphia would be almost 10 games over 500 at this point. And I thought they had a pretty good shot at maybe winning that game there against the Devils the other night, and they gave up too much outside. But what is with Philadelphia here? Is this all make believe, smoke and mirrors? It's going to come crumbling down, or is this Philadelphia team actually something that maybe can cause some aggravation here as the season comes to a close and we head to the playoffs?
First order of business for the Flyers is they got to make the playoffs. I think they're going to make the playoffs. Second order of business will be the pack.
Be huge.
All right, so that's going to change everything. Philadelphia making the playoffs, it's been a while. They've been bottom of the league, kind of a laughing stock in the Eastern Conference for a while.
Oh, yes.
Flyers are a pretty decent hockey team. Now, they got the curveball thrown with the goaltending situation. Can't control that. And they're going to have to maybe make a trade for a veteran goaltender. Maybe. But Jonesy's done an unbelievable job from the top down. Torts has a plan.
Crazy.
They're a legitimate threat to win a series in the playoffs.
Which is crazy.
It's worthy of a discussion. The team that's most disappointing.
Well, at a pretty good price. They're never going to be a favorite, right? Nope. I mean, they're never going to be a favorite against anybody that they play.
Nope.
And they seem to have, they seem to be building some confidence as we go along. I don't trust the Rangers, although Ranger fans will tell you this is the year. until, of course, they end up getting bounced out in 4 games because then nobody can score. It is kind of infuriating with that team. It truly, truly is. But we got a lot of hockey to go, which is exciting at this point.
Yesterday was such a celebration in Pittsburgh for Jaromir Jagr.
Oh, yeah.
Who played on a bunch of teams, including in Florida. But the Penguins had a 1-0 lead, allowed the Kings to score 2 goals in 3 minutes in the third period and lost 2-1.
Yep.
The Penguins on that list are 18-1. They might as well be 18,000-1. They ain't winning the East.
Can't trust them.
They ain't winning the Cup. I don't even think they're making the playoffs. I can't believe it. The power play's a mess. Jagr took the pregame skate. He's 52. I said, let him play on the power play, please. I don't know. I'm so bummed out.
They made their bed, Dave. You know that. They had that cross in the road, right? And they could have went left and started afresh. Spent an awful lot of money with some guys that are past their prime. We'll get you caught up in the college hoops. We'll do that next here on the Grid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8, right? This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8. 6 you lose, 7 you push, 8 you win. So it's going to come down to the end.
And he missed the 3, and they are not going to foul. They're not going to foul. He just drove and scored, though. Oh, they gave up a dunk with 14.1 to go.
InGame Live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilkes and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilkes' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points, defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points, and then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in InGame Live, and we are prime time here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Dave Sharapan. We want to thank you guys so much for hanging with us here as We are off and running in the two Big 12 games here, kind of one-sided, as Houston up 4 right now over Iowa State. But again, we're at the 12-minute mark here, and we've got 15 points. How this game was steamed. In-game number right now, I'm seeing 124.5. This thing was steamed up to 133.5 is beyond me today. But so far, this is going exactly as we thought it might. And also, good game right now in Texas. 16-11 right now with about 8.5 to go. Texas at home taking on Kansas State. Both teams only a game apart, Dave. Kansas State 15-10 on the season. 16-9 for Texas. Both of these teams need a win, and there does feel, as I'm watching it, Dave, a sense of urgency and desperation from both of these teams, which is great because, the final 3 weeks of regular season games, this is going to be a big do-or-die spot for a lot of teams in college hoops. But two games right now that are certainly living up to tonight and the hype, and it's only going to get better because you mentioned it. Tomorrow's card is awesome in college hoops, and I don't know what to make. I just think UConn, short of beating themselves and getting all sorts of knock on wood injuries, I don't see how. And I don't know that the number, Dave, is it's probably chalky now because we could have gotten UConn 2 months ago at a much different price here, but it almost feels like, how are we not holding UConn tickets for final, Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four, championship game, winning the championship game? Nothing I've seen from this team leads me to believe they got experience. They've been there, done that. You know how hard it is to repeat at anything, much less college. When is the last college basketball repeat we've had? Probably UConn, no? Was it?
Yeah, we'll have to have Jack.
Jack, you got to find that out for us.
Yeah. I don't know off
goodness.
the top of my head because it's
so
been that
hard
long.
to do.
So hard.
It has,
But
right?
they're built for any type of game, but they are built to dictate their game to anybody. You have to go play UConn's game, which, again, with the turnover in college basketball, guys one and dones, nobody stays together. It's really hard to do that. I mean, so I don't know. It's them and everybody else right now, price-wise. But I think you have to start looking at locking in a couple prices on a couple teams, whether it's to make the Final Four or to win it all. Because I don't know, Joe. The Big 12 is going to be an unbelievable postseason tournament. One of those ones that the team that wins it may be worse for the wear because they got to play really hard games, high leverage games, back to back to back. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I think they're all battle tested. You're seeing it in a game that some would say the games aren't meaningless, but the Texas K-State game, if the Big 12 gets 9 teams in, winning and losing this game isn't going to determine your spot. You're going to have other opportunities. Or you get hot in that tournament in Kansas City, win 3 games, get to the finals, and now you get pushed over the edge by the committee, and you're in. So I like the way the Big 12 is battle-tested. Every team in there, for the most part. I mean, West Virginia's having a tough time, but
as long as they don't devour themselves.
That's the problem, right? That's the problem.
Yeah. And I don't hate – I think UConn by far this year is – it's not a great Big East team. It's them, and then I think –
up and down. Like I thought Marquette
there's not
was
enough
really
consistency.
Creighton is no consistency.
Can't trust them.
That's what I mean.
Zero consistency, which means you can't trust them in the big game at the big – I mean, they're getting blown out in spots this year. It's like this is just – so I do think UConn, that favors them from that standpoint where, unlike any team in the Big 12 who is, if they're going to devour one another, it's the problem we've had with the Big 10 over the years, right? Yeah. Another down season for the Big 10 this year. That's not a Michigan State team that has shown any consistency whatsoever. I mean, there's Purdue, and that's it. Ohio State fired their coach. Yeah, they pulled off the upset, but they'll go back to being terrible. How in the world Howard still has a job at Michigan is beyond me. It's not a great conference this year. It's really not.
Yeah.
So I do think UConn not having to worry about emptying the tanks, I think, this year against that very familiar competition in the Big East. And I do believe the last back-to-back champion in college hoops, you got to go back to 2007, Billy Donovan and the Florida Gators were the last back-to-back national champions. The old Florida Gators back then. It's impossible in this day and age, and especially, think about it, with the portal and the NIL deals, and you're going to go back-to-back? That is pretty darn. Look who FAU having a hell of a time this year, and they brought back the entire damn team.
Everybody.
And they still, everybody's coming after him. So I don't think people appreciate enough what UConn is doing right now. And at the level that they're doing it, they're just kind of separating themselves from everybody else. And that game tomorrow night, you'll be on tomorrow night covering that game then as well then.
We already booked.
Buckle up,
we already
folks.
booked JY. We'll be back. That'll be a fun one to talk about.
8:30.
Before we have Cam on, Cam's coming on next, and we'll discuss a couple things. One, I have to just ask him what he thought about the golf betting. Golf in-game betting is out of this world, Joe. Yesterday, Hideki Matsuyama was 150-1 in the morning before he teed off. And the ups and downs of that golf in-game yesterday, I can't wait to hear what Cam said. Hopefully he had a piece of it. I grabbed the falling knife and had him at 25-1, but I had that thing surrounded.
I'll bet you this, though. I bet you one guy he definitely didn't bother playing was Patrick Cantley. Because as sure as I'm sitting here, Cam knows the fact that he led through 3 rounds was the kiss of death. He was never winning. Him and Schauffele were never winning that last night. And Willie Z, I'm glad that he is back, but he was just never. He was just never. He's not. I mean, took a year off.
He was right there. The guy Matsuyama shot a 62. A 62. If someone's going to beat you, a 62 on Sunday, 9 under. Okay, that's fine. But the boys did some baseball graphics. We got to at least mention it before we get to Cam. Hideki
pitchers and catchers are walking around the neighborhood here now.
Ohtani hit a home run in his first BP today. Like his first live BP, stepped in, hit a home run. It's Dodgers, 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 Dodgers. Are you? If it ain't the Dodgers, Joe, who is it? The Braves or the Phillies or anybody else? That's it. It's the Dodgers.
It is and it should be the Dodgers without a doubt.
It's ridiculous.
Right. And it's not even fun to do it. I mean, listen, is Arizona? There's no more value with them. We know that's gone, right? So I think we're fairly certain that that's finished there. Will Atlanta be good? Yes, Atlanta. I think all the usual suspects, but I do think there is a bet that if you're going to make any bets early, I think there is a team worth fading. And that team, to me, is the Boston Red Sox, whose win total, Dave, I believe, is hovering in the 70s. Yeah. And exactly with what pitching staff are they going to win in what is going to be one of the most packed, again, the American League East there. There's not going to be an easy. Baltimore, not. Tampa, not going to happen. So you're going to tell me Boston's going to get to 80 wins with Bello as is Bello a number one? Is Bello in a Garrett Cole level? Yeah, no, it's not. I think it's going to be a very long season for the Red Sox. I think at most, Dave, they're winning 70 games if they're lucky. I think the season in that
Wow.
division with no
Really?
pitching, I mean, who's the number 2 in that team that's going to? I mean, their pitching is, how are you going to compete against those lineups there in the American League? How are you competing with that staff?
Me and Matt are going to make a season-long bet on the Red Sox versus the Pirates because the Red Sox are being treated like a small
Oh, he
market
knows
team.
it too. He must know it.
He does. He's accepting it. But, like, people are coming at him
Yes.
because he's like, what kind of a Red Sox fan are you? He's like, look, Lucas Giolito is penciled in the 1 spot in the rotation. You remember how last season ended for Lucas Giolito?
Exactly.
Put him in Fenway,
and
this may get ugly.
Yeah.
Like, there may be, some marks on the wall out there.
Yep.
It's going to be a tough season for Boston. Who's winning that division?
It's going to be a long season.
Baltimore?
I do think Baltimore will be there, but ultimately I think it's the Yankees with all their chips in. We'll talk more about it. Cam Stewart will join us next year on The Grid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, know how...
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8, right? This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8. 6 you lose, 7 you push, 8 you win. So it's going to come down to the end.
And he missed the 3, and they are not going to foul. They're not going to foul. He just drove and scored, though. Oh, they gave up a dunk with 14.1 to go.
InGame Live, Prime Time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilks and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilks' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points, defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points, and then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live. We are primetime here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Dave Sharapan, joined by the man taking over here at the top of the hour, Cam Stewart. Him and Gabe Morency will have you up there until midnight, guys, as we've got two college hoops games, Big 12 action going on right now. Kind of been a little lopsided here right now as Houston making it very difficult for the Iowa State team to get any points. 19-8 on that one, and a good one there with Kansas State and Texas, 22-18, 3.5 to go. The Blackhawks are playing, Cam, but you're like, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to watch it, like, who really cares? That's basically that. Yes. But hey, good news is Bedard is healthy. I don't know what the hell that's got to do. Are you in any of these college basketball games tonight? These two on?
Yeah, the under in Houston, and that's off to a great start. I'm thinking about hitting it again. Honest to God, I'm watching this game. Brick defense, free throw misses, sloppy. Looking at Kansas State live, guys, I don't know. Maybe they can hang with Texas in this spot. It's tough, on the road, but I could have got a better number before. Like, I was actually playing a lot of hockey. That 10.5 seems like a little bit of a, that's kind of excessive, I think. Texas only up 4 now, 22-18. By the way, Dave, Carolina, I think, finished smoking Chicago 6-3, the final. And Ottawa was leading against Tampa Bay. Lots of overs in the games today. Not sure if anybody had the over in the Vancouver Canucks-Minnesota game. 17 total goals, 10-7 was your final. Minnesota was getting like 2.5, 3-2. I don't know what they were on the money line live, but if somebody had the stones to take the Wild, that was some crazy, crazy stuff in the third period. But a lot of these games going over, guys, like Anaheim-Buffalo, start of the day, it's like blind overs in hockey. I don't know right now, just sloppy play, bad goaltending. Lots of offense, power plays. I don't know what it is, but it's just right now these guys are scoring all the time. It feels like we haven't really got down to the playoff, like, when they really play those playoff-style games yet, but that'll happen soon in a couple of weeks. But right now we're seeing some really loose hockey, and the underdogs are biting, too. Like, look at Ottawa against Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Lightning have some real problem, guys. Just moving forward, Joe, and I know you're in Florida. This is not the same Tampa Bay team. This team scored first against Florida, and Florida rattled off like 7, like 9-1. Like, this is embarrassing. Like, Vasilevsky can't do it all himself. They're an aging hockey team. We haven't even got to the playoffs yet, but all those long battles that they've had with the Leafs over the years, and all the Bruins and all the other teams. Like, I've noticed it with these older teams, and Gabe and I talk about it all the time. Like, the playoff war is really tough, Dave, and Vegas isn't there yet because they're a newer team, but in a couple of years, you'll see it with them too. All these teams that go deep eventually, like even the Kings are putting it together, but a lot of young guys have been called up, like Clark, who scored the game-winning goal against Boston in a crazy game over the weekend. I see these older teams have a lot of problems, and I think this bodes well for the Leafs because they've had guys out before, and sometimes their starters are sitting a lot more. I think they understand the big picture. Why are we busting our ass in the regular season? We lose anyway, so why don't we just take a couple days off, give some guys some rest so they can be fresh come playoff time. They still might lose, but I think it's a much better strategy. So hockey's been really, really crazy right now. A lot of overs. The outdoor game with the Devils, 6-3, like it's crazy.
Rangers, Islanders, another one went over with that outdoor game. It was good. I enjoyed it, but I got to ask you, because it brought me back to my childhood in hockey as a kid and growing up and enjoying. Yesterday, seeing Jaromir Jagr get his number retired in Pittsburgh. If you haven't watched the retirement ceremony and you have ESPN Plus, go watch it. It's about 45 minutes. It's unbelievable. It's outstanding. But Cam, he came out in the warm-up and they let him do the pregame skate, and everybody had a mullet. And I thought, let this guy take a shift on the power play because the Penguins can't score. They blew the game last night. The Penguins aren't going to make the playoffs. I'm resigned to that fact. So I wanted to ask you about that, and then I wanted to ask you about the golf yesterday because I went on that wild roller coaster ride. I got involved because of us on Friday night, and you mentioned some stuff. So I had a little Cantlay at a nice price, and then I went in with the list. I went in with the English. I had this thing surrounded. I touched a little Xander, and I really didn't do any day.
Dave, I'm going to tell you a lesson.
On a Sunday.
In the 4th round, I remember when I had Jason Kokrak over Xander in a matchup bet plus 220. I hit it 5 times. I don't care how good this guy is or he won Olympic gold. He sucks on Sundays. And when him and Cantlay play together, they're best friends. They beat each other up. They're thinking about, hey, where are we taking the wives? We're going back to Hawaii. What are we doing? Like, honestly, I'd rather. And Hideki's just sitting there. No respect at all, just sitting in the weeds, birdie. I had Will Zalatoris. That was a good pick at the start of the tournament at 55 to 1. And I told my girlfriend, I go, what the hell's going on here? List is hanging around. I trust him more because he's actually a stone cold closer. He should have won more tournaments in his life, Dave. Ask Joe Ranieri. Luke List hits the ball like 3. He murders it. He can't. Sometimes he can't putt.
And
but
he
if
beats
putts, he's one of the better players.
He beats Zalatoris in a playoff. Yes, exactly.
And I had Zalatoris in that playoff. I'm like, damn, Luke List. So I had Zalatoris there. I'm thinking the only guy. And then I start seeing Hideki. Click. I could have got better. I didn't get enough because I was going to win like 3 dimes with Zalatoris, but I got Hideki for like $750. So made a little bit of profit with the top 10s and 20s. But Dave, as I said before, and Joe, you just said it, you can't surround everybody. There's only so many soldiers you can bet. Like this guy comes out of nowhere. Like Hideki was 7 under, 8 under, 9, 10. I'm like, this guy's on a heater. Like, and that's the whole thing. You can't bet the field. You have to literally take a couple guys in golf at the start of the tournament, look at a guy 6-7 back. It seems like a lot. It's not. It's not. The minute these other guys start gagging at the top, all these guys in the weeds, 9 under, 8 under, they're just sitting there, thank you. And when I saw Xander Schauffele and Cantlay play their first 4 holes, I was like, thank God. I don't have to hedge on these turkeys because I got other guys. I could put like 30, 40 on Hideki and get some of my Zalatoris monies back, even though it would have been a huge score. And that's what we do. Like, that's the whole thing. Once I realized it was a 3-man race, I was in a really good situation getting those other guys out of there. But Dave, as I told you before, like I'm still beat down and stressed out. I was watching with my girlfriend. She's like, why can't we just get one? Can't we just get one, Cam? I go, Zalatoris is close. He missed a lot of short putts. I go, this is golf on Sunday. And she knows she's along for the ride with me. We get depressed, and what are you going to do? Yep.
Cam, I played a lot of golf. I played a lot of rounds. I can't ever recall signing a wrong scorecard. I don't even know how in the hell, as a professional, you're Jordan Spieth and you get disqualified for signing a wrong score. There's so many.
I had an argument with Peralta about this.
There.
No, but why? Why are we signing scorecards? Why am I looking after Joe Ranieri's scorecard? Why is Joe Ranieri looking after Cam Stewart and Dave Sharapan's scoring card? We're in the freaking 2024. There's no signing cards. The computer tells us the live bet numbers. It's all there. And people are like, for the love of the game, golf, signing the card. No, there's no need. There's no need for it. All of the bad things can happen, and a guy can get DQ'd.
Knows their score. Like us,
everybody.
I'm in Vegas, and I know their score instantaneously because it adjusts the odds, and I see them shot by shot on a computer, not even watching. How can
and I don't understand why you go to the tent. Somebody just says, hey, man, you were a 4 on that hole, not a 3. Let's correct this before you leave the tent. You're just waiting for a guy to screw up and go, you know what, you're done. And I find it funny how Tiger Woods withdrew and Jordan Spieth was a heavily bet golfer and he DQ'd. He hasn't done that 363 tournaments, but it happened this week.
I mean, anyway. That's what I mean. It's like, Joe? You got to be kidding me. Yeah.
I said the same thing to Pearl.
How bad is
I don't get it. I just don't understand why we have this stuff. Sorry, Joe.
I'm worried about Scotty Scheffler. I don't know how much longer he can be doing on the green when it comes to putting before it starts. I mean, Rory's out there recommending on the broadcast, which is so weird that Rory's not even in the field. He's like, now he's basically finishing early. It's just so weird not having him around. But he's like, he's got to switch putters. He's got to go to a mallet putter. This dude is literally top 3 in every statistical category except putting, Cam. And you know how that mentally just ruins dudes and it's not getting any better. This is carried over from last season and he looks lost out there, which is a problem, I think, moving forward.
Joe, he couldn't have said any better. And the thing is, even when he starts to come back, he's had so much work mentally with like all the misses that he has, and then he'll make a little run and then he's down again. It's like you can't. Like he's done. You see it. I'm like, here comes Scheffler. Nope. Another three putt.
Yep.
And it's absolutely hilarious to me. And you brought up a great point, Joe. Imagine Rory McIlroy could putt too. Like I watch this guy off the tee. Like it's so funny. Him and Scheffler are the two best golfers like tee to green in the world, and they can't putt. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. And you look at these other guys, and it's like Hideki Matsuyama, by imagination, is a better putter. But when he gets hot, that's the whole thing. It's just like he rolls the rock, and it's really weird. Like you saw him at Augusta, and he got in that same kind of zone. And it's you're right though, Joe. Scheffler's a guy. Maybe the odds will go down and he will figure it out. But mentally, if you miss like 6 to 8 footers consistently, you're going to go nuts. And I watch Rory McIlroy, like it's actually affected him to a point now where he has, like Dave, he'll blow it 6, 7 feet past the hole, miss another one coming back. Like he has no feel, none. Like I almost like me and Joe out there. And I'm not even kidding you. Like I hit a putt with John Daly before. It's confidence. Like you go out there and you feel it. Like guys are around the hole all the time. Like Rory doesn't even get close to the hole. Like he's in another area code. So you're right, Joe. Until maybe we'll start getting Scheffler in double digits, but at prices of 4 to 6 to 1, you can't bet this guy. You can't bet a guy with a cold putter like that. So we'll see what happens in Mexico this week.
You got to fade him.
Yeah,
you got to fade him head to heads. He can't. He finished dead last in putting and second tee to green. I mean.
That's
there's
ridiculous.
money to be made there because you're going to keep pricing him.
He wins every week. That's what I tell Gabe. If he puts like middle of the field, he can't lose.
So true.
He can't lose. He loses 4.5 to 6 points, 6 strokes putting. Like that's nuts. Like these are tournaments.
Yep.
And it's sometimes even more, Dave. Like it's like that's the whole thing about golf, man. That's what it comes down to. They drive for show, putt for dough, and you're just sitting there on Sunday going, man.
2 games tomorrow.
Yep.
There's 2 hockey games tomorrow I wanted to ask you about. The Stars play the Rangers at the Rangers, and the Canucks, after losing by a field goal today, 10-7 to the Wild, play at the Avalanche. Now, they left the Smith in for the beating. The Canucks did. Those are 2 really good hockey games that are going to have the home team favored. I think both dogs are live in those situations, no?
I agree with you, Dave. I think the Islanders actually are live against your Penguins. The Penguins are struggling. I think Vancouver, you could take Vancouver plus 130 against Colorado. I think that's a good play. I'm going to put the Kings in a parlay piece. I think they've started to figure it out. Jets will have some revenge. They lost. They were in a kind of an interesting spot where people bet them a lot today, but they play Minnesota, and Minnesota's coming off that win. I really don't want to lay 60 cents, but I will in that spot. Those are games that I like, and I don't know, man. The Dallas Stars just, they find ways. They might be a juicy dog against, sorry, Jack, your Rangers. I kind of look at Dallas at plus 150. They're a good hockey team. Very good. He's smart.
Well done,
that's against his team.
Done.
Well played. Well played,
that's
guys.
Right. All right,
Have a good
Cam,
one, fellas.
take it over top of the hour. Be good, my man. We'll close it out next year on the grid.
You too, guys.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8, right? This is going to fall 6, 7, or 8. 6 you lose, 7 you push, 8 you win. So it's going to come down to the end.
And he missed the 3, and they are not going to foul. They're not going to foul. He just drove and scored, though. Oh, they gave up a dunk with 14.1 to go.
InGame Live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It felt during the year that there was a little bit of disconnect with Wilks and Kyle Shanahan. The total points allowed by Steve Wilks' defense the last 3 years before this, head coach for the Cardinals, they gave up the 26th most points. Defensive coordinator for the Browns, 20th most points. And then Carolina, they gave up the 19th most points.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in here as we look to wrap up this edition of InGame Live. Primetime here on the SportsGrid Network. 2018, Houston on top of Iowa State right now, and they are at the break. 27-22, Texas and Kansas State. Two pretty good defensive battles here, Dave, on the way out. Should be some great second halves. That in-game number, Houston still laying 9.5, and I believe 3.5 is what Texas is laying at the break over Kansas State here. You leaning one way or the other in these games? No way we get it over, right, in the second half?
No. I think you could go.
No way.
It's 120.5. That might be the point of no return. I think, yeah, it's down to Houston is down to 120.5. I don't all that steam, all that other stuff nonsense. I like that game under to begin with. You might be able to get under 120.5. It's not time to go over yet. I think you can get in the teens, get around 116.5.
I agree.
Maybe look to go get that middle, but I wouldn't bet over 120.5 right now. Tomorrow, big hockey games. Cam mentioned them. Islanders, you got to keep an eye out for that. That's going to be a nice plus. And I don't know. Minnesota, Winnipeg, over. Just put that one in the data bank right now. 6 is the overnight. I think you can get over that. And I think UConn wins tomorrow at Creighton, Joe. We'll talk about that more tomorrow.
I don't hate you. You know,
JY said
I also don't hate Baylor getting points on the road. I don't mind getting Baylor points at BYU.
Right.
I'll take the 3.5 points. I think Baylor is getting ready to kick it up. It's a great card. Absolutely huge card. Utah State, San Diego State out in the Mountain West. So plenty of great college hoops action. NBA returns on Thursday. A lot to go over between now and then. Cam Stewart, Gabe Morency coming up next. We'll see you again tomorrow for another edition of InGame Live Primetime. Good luck with your plays. We'll talk soon.